Have you ever wondered what the best single player World War II shooter series is? Medal of Honor, maybe? Call of Duty? Wolfenstein? Well, if you answered with any of those, you're wrong. The answer you're looking for is Brothers in Arms. Now, why, do I hear you ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, when it comes to World War II films or stories centered around combat, they generally focus on a group of soldiers and not just an individual. Yes, there may be one main character, but the other characters are big components to the tale being told because, on the front lines, you are fighting with your squad, forming that bond that could last a lifetime. You are fighting for that man next to you, your squad mate, your friend, your brother. And you can see these bonds form in many films or series. Just look at Band of Brothers, probably the main inspiration for Brothers in Arms. The series at first follows Richard Winters, telling his tale about how he ended up leading Easy Company, earning the trust of his men through good leadership and being there in the thick of combat. You also learn of many of the other members from Easy Company and see how friendships are formed between them and how each life taken from Easy Company can have a devastating impact on them. So when it comes to the previously mentioned games, why do I think they kind of failed to be great World War II shooters? Now, just being set in World War II, using World War II equipment, or featuring recognizable battles or locations isn't good enough in my opinion. In Call of Duty, generally, you are part of a squad with a handful of cookie cutter characters. Hey man, do you remember that we're best friends? I'm totally not gonna die or get captured later on. But these squad members are useless. It's all on you, that one individual, to win the entire battle, to win the entire war. They are just set dressing, just there to make everything look better or more epic. They could easily be replaced by literal cardboard cutouts. While their character may get fleshed out more in cutscenes or moments in between combat, functionally, they are useless. You pretty much have to be a one-man army, which in itself isn't a bad thing. It's a power fantasy of being that one guy who can take on an entire army. But I think in the World War II setting, especially since you're with a squad of guys, it just doesn't really hit the mark. For Medal of Honor, it's worse. Now, this could be purely down to what developers could do when the World War II games were released, since in these games, you pretty much have no squad mates. You may start the game in a squad of guys that don't really do much and they have no development for the character, but then you are suddenly whisked away to join the OSS to do solo missions where you need to show papers to some guards. But when it comes to Brothers in Arms, there are 3 games in the main series, and in the first one, Road to Hill 30, and the last one, Hell's Highway, you take control of Matt Baker, who leads Baker Company of the 101st Airborne Division, the same 101st that Easy Company is part of in Band of Brothers. The key thing here is that you lead Baker Company. You're not just part of it, and that's reinforced by the gameplay. As an individual soldier in Brothers in Arms, you are not this one-man army. You're not able to take out hundreds of enemy soldiers while taking lots of damage. You are not a super accurate shot able to just get headshots left and right. If you go out by yourself, you will not last long and you will barely take out any Germans. Thankfully, you get to control 1 to 3 teams of men during the campaign. There's the fire team, equipped with weapons like BARs and M1 Garands, designed to pin the enemy down and keep them suppressed. The assault team with Thompsons and M1 carbines, they're designed to get around the flanks and get close to the enemy and take him out. And lastly, a tank, which is, well, a tank. The core of the gameplay relies on the 4 Fs. Find, fix, flank, and finish. So first, find the enemy. Take note of the area you're fighting in. If the enemy hasn't spotted you yet, move up to a more advantageous position. Second, fix the enemy in place with suppressive fire. This is going to pin the enemy down and stop them from moving, while also reducing the frequency of their returning fire and the accuracy of it. Now, you need to flank the enemy. Move your second squad up, round the flanks of the enemy into some cover so they can get fire onto an exposed enemy from a protected position and, well, finish them off. Though it never stays that simple, since there will be multiple enemy squads, so you may need to suppress both of them while gradually moving your own squads up into better positions so you make sure you get no casualties. It's almost like a big puzzle to solve, but with guns and tactics. Your teams can be so effective that I'm confident that when you control at least 2 teams, you could complete missions without firing your weapon. But since it's a first person shooter, you can, but you are not very effective. Your gun sways a lot, and your shots are not very accurate, so you're better off getting your teams to get the job done. Pulling off a good maneuver, especially when taking 0 casualties, feels great, and I'm genuinely surprised that this type of first person shooter nowadays pretty much doesn't exist. So the first game in the series is Road to Hill 30, and this game I feel takes the most inspiration from Band of Brothers. A side note, I do have a full let's play of this game on my channel which I made back in 2020, and I'll link the first episode in the description. The game starts with a flash forward of sorts to the very last level of the game, the Battle at Hill 30, also known as the Battle of Bloody Gulch. And this battle is shown in Band of Brothers episode 3 for about 10 minutes starting at minute 39. The 101st are defending the hill from a German attack pretty well until they get hit by some tanks. Then we jump back to D-Day -1, where Baker jumps in with the rest of the 101st into Normandy, and, just like Band of Brothers, you get separated from your unit during the drop, but it serves the purpose of a small tutorial with some movement and easy combat, while introducing you to some other characters, Mac, the sergeant of your platoon, Lieutenant Colonel Cole, Leggett, and Joe Hartsock, or Red, as he is commonly called, and he's one of the major characters in the series. As you progress through the game, you'll be given control of more men in different teams as you battle through and take Bougainville, Vieurville, and St. Côme. One of the complaints you could put against this game is how each environment looks very similar to the previous levels. This isn't a game where you hop across the globe. Just like the title of the game says, it's about getting to Hill 30. So while the environments feel very familiar, they should do, because you are gradually fighting through Normandy. Now after St. Côme, one of the major story moments happens. Baker and his men come across Leggett, who is leading 2 people, Alan and Garnett, on a little flanking mission. However, Alan and Garnett lie dead on the ground, with 3 dead Germans close by. It looks like that each group encountered each other on patrol, with the Americans coming out on top, with Leggett taking out the Germans. However, there is a big secret about this moment. A secret which isn't revealed until the 3rd game, Hell's Highway. One thing that is odd with Road to Hill 30, and it really stands out in this moment, is that during the gameplay segments and any conversations your men have, Baker says nothing. He's like a silent protagonist, although he has voice lines for all the commands you give during the game, and at the beginning of each mission, Baker will say a few words. It's here where you learn more about the kind of person Baker is and how the war and his decisions affect him.
How can a man stay focused on life when all he sees is death? I can't get it out of my head that sending Allen and Garnett with Leggett got them killed. If they'd just been with me... Fuck! If they'd just been with me! Maybe they'd still be alive! Maybe I could have saved them!
You may recognize Baker's voice actor as the same guy who voiced these guys.
I recognize those eyes anywhere.
It's good to see you again, Nathan.
You do that with a revolver.
And now the girl's been chosen to take Mommy's place.
I swear.
Yes, that's Troy Baker, and this was actually his 3rd voice role in a game. This event with Leggett does start to cause issues within the squad, issues that never really get resolved and leads to people questioning Baker's command, and it carries throughout every game. Even we don't find out what really happened at this moment until the 3rd game. Throughout the game, Brothers in Arms tries to keep things grounded, from the gameplay, the interactions between the members of Baker Company, the locations, and quite notably the missions. Each mission does feel like something that you would be doing during the Normandy campaign, whether that's a good thing or not, since every mission will be something like destroy the artillery guns, clear the Germans from a farmhouse, or capture the town. You're focused on clearing or capturing certain areas, so the infantry that landed on the beaches on D-Day can get inland easier to push the Germans out of France. You won't be coming across gimmick missions like a big turret level, or stealth missions like in Medal of Honor where you need to show papers to people, or in Call of Duty where you have to sneak in and stealthily take out the train. You also take part in an engagement that happened in World War II. I'm not sure if other missions are recreations or anything specifically from World War II, but when Baker Company starts to head towards Carentan, they find themselves on Purple Heart Lane alongside Lieutenant Colonel Cole. If you remember, we met him right at the beginning of the game. We take part in Cole's Charge, an event which happened on the 11th of June, where Lieutenant Colonel Cole led a bayonet charge against a German position in a farmhouse. And for this, Cole was awarded the Medal of Honor. Fun fact, if you remember in Band of Brothers where Dyke said to Winters that he was recommending him for the Medal of Honor in episode 2 because of his attack on the guns at Brakel Manor. Well, the reason why Winters didn't receive the Medal of Honor and got a Distinguished Service Cross instead, which is the second highest award you can get, is because there was a quota system where only one Medal of Honor could be awarded per division, and Lieutenant Colonel Cole got his first. Now you're taking part in the assault on Carentan, and if you're replaying this game on PC, make sure you play with VSync on, as you will encounter a physics bug and you won't be able to finish this level. It's just an issue you may get in some older games on new hardware. It's just unfortunately how it is with PC gaming. With Carentan taken and then defended with what is arguably a gimmick level, as you only use a sniper rifle on this one, we then head to Hill 30. When it comes to final levels in games, generally they test you in what you've learned throughout the game and put you through a challenging scenario. Road to Hill 30 really drops the ball here. You start defending the hill with no teams to control. After taking out some Germans, you get knocked out from a tank blast and you witness Leggett getting killed.
You want me? Fucking take me! Take me!
You then get sent off by yourself to find the allied armour in the area, to then lead them back to Hill 30 to assist with the defence. Now, going out by yourself, you come up against multiple German infantry squads and tanks. The game really isn't designed for this type of solo gameplay, so it doesn't feel or play well. I think what the developers were going for here is like a stealth level, but it just doesn't work. So generally just try to run past everything. And then you get 2 tanks to order around and fight your way back to Hill, win the day, and ending cutscene. Red gets promoted to leading second squad, and really before much else can happen, the Germans counterattack and the game ends.
Welcome to the end of the beginning. Grab your gear, troopers! We've still got a war to fight!
Third squad, you heard the man. Move out.
The first Brothers in Arms game is a great tactical first-person shooter. It puts a heavy focus on using your squad, movement and positioning instead of just run and gun gameplay. I would still, 18 years after its release, recommend playing this game. Its sequel, Earned in Blood, takes the formula from the first game and improves upon it. Road to Hill 30 released in March 2005, and Earned in Blood was released, yep, you guessed it, 7 months later in October. It's not just like a short, quick sequel either. It takes roughly the same amount of time to complete as the first game. So surely not much could have changed in 7 months. And no, not much has. But in Earned in Blood, you take control of Red this time. And the game is a sort of side story plus sequel. You control Red as he lands in Normandy on D-Day -1 before he meets up with Matt Baker, and once you meet Baker, you take part in some missions that are not shown in the first game. Then when Red is promoted after the battle at Hill 30, you carry on the story, helping to flesh out his character more. There are 2 main improvements made to Earned in Blood. Firstly, the levels are generally larger with more flanking routes and just a larger scale. And secondly, the enemy AI has been improved, so now they just won't sit behind cover. They will retreat if needed and now try to outflank you. It does make for a better and more challenging gameplay experience. I'm going to jump to the third game now, Hell's Highway, as Earned in Blood plays and feels really exactly like the first game, which isn't a bad thing, but Hell's Highway is really a true sequel. It was released 3 years after Earned in Blood and on the current generation of hardware at that time, which was the 360 and PS3, with the previous 2 games releasing on the original Xbox. Instead of fighting through Normandy, the action now shifts to Operation Market Garden in the Netherlands. Along with the obvious graphical upgrades that a generational leap will bring, Gearbox made a number of changes. First off, there is now a cover system that switches the camera from first person to third person, quite reminiscent of the cover system from Rainbow Six Vegas and Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. The cover system works really well in this game, and it kinda does feel natural. It allows you to be more aware of what's happening in combat, and you can more easily order your teams around when in cover. Destructible cover is also introduced. This is limited to light pieces of cover like wood or furniture. Sustained fire against these types of cover will lead to them getting gradually destroyed, or if you just use explosives, it'll just take it out. A slow-mo cinematic camera also shows off explosive kills and some headshots you get. And you also get a couple of missions where you control a British tank and you can just decimate loads of German troops and some tanks. It's just a change of pace mission to break up the tactical gameplay, and while it could feel a little bit gimmicky, I really like them, they just fit. The last big improvement to the game are the cutscenes. Now they are much more dynamic, like they are trying to emulate Band of Brothers, and quite importantly, Baker actually speaks to and interacts with his squad, so now you can see the friendships within the squad better, what people think of each other, and how the events of Normandy affect Baker a lot better. Side note, remember this guy from Band of Brothers, Colonel Sink, played by Dale Dye, who served in the USMC? He reprises his role as Colonel Sink in this game as well. With Baker Company landing in the Netherlands, they are tasked with fighting towards Eindhoven, destroying German positions and securing others along the way. During these battles to Eindhoven, you see how the effects of Normandy, and more specifically what happened with Leggett, still haunt Baker. He's not the perfect soldier. He's been deeply affected by what he's seen and what he's done. You also make contact with the Dutch resistance. Once you reach Eindhoven, you are tasked with clearing out a factory and helping a Dutch resistance member find his son, Peter. Luckily, you do find him in the area of the factory and get to control a tank for the first time. You rescue Peter after going through a section where you are fighting by yourself, and thankfully with the addition of the new cover system and the improved accuracy your character has, these are quite enjoyable close quarters combat movements. Eindhoven is liberated, Peter is reunited with his dad, and the new member of your squad, Frankie, falls for a Dutch girl, and on that night...
I'm not hiding anything.
I talked to someone who would disagree with you.
What?
Hey, did you hear that?
Get everybody up!
Baker Company regroup and charge into battle, and during the chaos that's going on, Frankie abandons the squad to find the girl from earlier. Lives are lost in the squad, and Baker finds the bodies of Peter and his dad. But there are more Germans in the area and more civilians that need to be saved, and Frankie is still missing.
Frankie! Frankie!
Sorry, Sarge. Don't be sorry. You did good.
Did she get out okay?
Yeah. Yeah, she's fine.
Liar.
Everything that Baker has experienced in the series really starts to take a toll on him now. He keeps seeing visions of Leggett at different points throughout the game, and now he's even hallucinating the enemy. This starts to cause further divisions within the squad, and even leads to Red, who's probably closest to Baker, letting their superior know of his own thoughts about Baker's mental state. But with Eindhoven secured, Baker Company move to secure Veghel, take out some tanks, and then we get another British tank segment, and after that battle, Red talks to Baker about his mental state. But
You were in control of your men instead of always trying to be their best friend? They wouldn't need fighting.
a member of Baker Company is killed, 2 more are wounded, and Baker's face is scarred from the shrapnel. Now we're on to Hell's Highway itself, ambushed by the Germans. Baker Company must fight their way along it, taking out tanks and 88s, while then holding the train station against a mass German attack. This section kind of feels like the last level. I mean, the game is named after this location, and yeah, I think it might be the most challenging section of the entire game, but there is a little more left. And with the secret regarding Leggett still having a hold over Baker, he finally tells his squad, and we see what really happened on that day in Normandy.
I'm so sorry.
Leggett, what happened?
This is stupid. We should head back.
Which way is back at this point?
The direction your back is facing?
Max said...
Jesus, Legs! Are you and Mac married? Do you share a cottage in the summer?
Here it comes. Everyone gather around for some macho bullshit.
Guys!
You know what your problem is, Leggett?
You! It's you! My problem is you!
No, it's you!
Would you two shut the hell
You
up?
can't deal with people! Everyone hates you!
Everyone hates me, Alan? Wake up! They hate you too! The guys talk about you behind your back all the time! Even Garnett!
Leggett, shut up! There's Germans
I
everywhere!
don't give a shit! Hey, Germans! We're over here! Come kill us!
Leggett,
If you had half a dick, you would have hit me by now.
give me a reason.
How's that for a fucking reason?
Jesus, Leggett!
Not right now! This is between me and Alan!
Shit! Leggett! Alan! Get the fuck... No! Ah!
I'm sorry, Kevin.
Baker!
Leggett, don't ever tell anyone what you just told me.
Why?
Because they'll kill you. He didn't see anything.
After the last level and a tank section, we get to the final cutscene of the game. Baker seeks out Red and finds out that he's been paralyzed, will be going home, and he promises to find him after the war. Baker gives a speech to his men about their losses through the campaign and their need for unity going ahead. But before that speech, the shadow of Leggett still hangs over Baker, with Baker having a discussion with a hallucination of Leggett, with Leggett's last words being,
"How do you feel about snow?"
Now, when you say Bastogne to any fan of Banner Brothers, they will probably be able to remember every moment of hell that Easy Company experiences there. The terrible conditions, the losses, and the mental breaks. So this would be where Baker would head to in Brothers in Arms 4, except Brothers in Arms 4 never happened, which is a huge shame. Not only is the gameplay rock solid, but it would have been great to see how Baker's story and his company would have advanced. How would his mental state be impacted by Bastogne? But some of you may even remember that Brothers in Arms 4 was actually formally announced. And I wish I could just play you my live reaction to this trailer, but since it was announced back at E3 in 2011, I will have to do my best to recreate it for you. Alright, time for Brothers in Arms 4. Looking forward to this. Waiting a few years for this now. Let's see what Gearbox have got for us. No, it's not 4 soldiers. There's a lot more than 4 soldiers. Maybe they mean something different. Alright, Jim, Bub. Art style seems to be a little bit different.
Drink up, boys.
What?
What?
It's happy hour.
What? This is what they're doing with Brothers in Arms? This is actually making me feel sick. Shit, indeed. Just how? Like, how did this happen? Who in their right mind decided to turn Brothers in Arms, a series of tactical, squad-based first-person World War II shooters, into a mix of Borderlands and Inglourious Bastards? This would be like turning Counter-Strike into a COD clone, or turning COD into a good game. So, yeah, this game was ultimately cancelled, and parts of this game was put into Battleborn. I mean, that shows you how far away Furious 4 was from Brothers in Arms. There is a possibility, though, that a new Brothers in Arms game is being developed. Back in September 2021, Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox, confirmed that a new game is on the way, but that there won't be any details for a while. But then in this year, June, Embracer Group, who own Gearbox, announced that they will be closing studios and cancelling games as part of a big restructure. No games have been publicly cancelled, and we haven't heard anything more about Brothers in Arms, so it's possible that a new game is still in development. So, Brothers in Arms, we got 3 games in 4 years, and they are quite unique first-person games. I struggle to think of a first-person shooter that puts so much emphasis on using your squad. There's got to be some out there, but I can't really think of them. Yes, you could probably say games like Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon, Ready or Not, but they are quite different from how Brothers in Arms plays. But they are quite close quarter games, and Ghost Recon, while it is larger, really the only old school Ghost Recon games would be close to this, but it's so kind of old, it's missing a lot of features and quality of life improvements that later games would have brought in. But some later games in Ghost Recon just pushed the series to like a more casual end of like the hardcore casual spectrum. I really do hope that there is a new Brothers in Arms game in development, because this series, it is one of my most favourite first person shooter series. Even though they are quite old now, they are still extremely playable, extremely enjoyable. And I think if you was to pick them up in like a sale on Steam, I think they're just generally cheap now anyway because of their age. I really think you will not be disappointed. There is no first-person shooter set in World War II out there that does World War II quite as well as Brothers in Arms. Nothing puts an emphasis on the men fighting beside you as this game. Nothing plays quite like it, and it's a really unique, I think, World War II first-person shooter. The gameplay is still extremely solid, even though the first game released over 18 years ago, and they still play really well. And for all these reasons, that is why Brothers in Arms is the best first-person shooter World War II series ever made. Let me know what you think about the series down in the comments below, anything you would agree with or disagree with. If you like the video, please give it a like. If you dislike the video, thank you for watching to the end. Let me know what you disliked about it down below. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next one.